been waiting for. Zack's Gear Corner.
You ever try shooting a scene without Haze and you set up a shot, you get the perfect angle, the lighting is perfect, but then you look at the monitor and you're like, why does this look like a corporate training video? Well, that's because the air is too clear, too much oxygen in that shot, not enough art.
Haze.
In a can. Welcome back, everybody, to the Your Next Film podcast, a podcast by creatives for creatives, where we delve into the art of indie filmmaking. And this teleprompter's getting way too fast, bro.
What are you doing?
I don't know what I'm doing. Anyways, this is a indie filmmaking podcast where we help you make your next film. And today we're going back to the very beginning. We're going to be reviewing some of our earliest short film projects, kind of dogging on them a little bit, but hopefully pulling some valuable lessons from them. But before we get started, Mateo, how are you doing today?
You know, been a bit swamped with work. You know, this was my thing. I was like, oh yeah, it's picking up. Like last week, I was talking about how much it was picking up, and I was like, man, you know, I'm glad to actually be working again.
That's good.
And then now I'm like, it's coming at me too fast. I have too many things to do. But I'm getting through it. Been watching a lot of movies lately. I went with my like little film group 3 times last week. Did we meet?
Did you really?
We did. We got together for our traditional Monday. We watched Punch Drunk Love, which if you didn't watch last week's episode, I talk about that some actually. And then middle of the week, we were like, well, so we were doing the Adam Sandler. This month, we're doing an Adam Sandler serious roles month. So we go through all the serious movies that Adam Sandler has done. So in this case, it was Punch Drunk Love first. And then everybody was like, man, we really like Paul Thomas Anderson's work. And we really want to watch Inherent Vice. Unfortunately, it's not the month for Inherent Vice, so we'll have to kick that down the road. But then we were like, we can't wait. So we just did it on Wednesday. And then Saturday, we all went to theater for the cinema re-release of The Nice Guys by Shane Black.
Oh, nice.
Which is a fantastic film. Highly suggested if you haven't seen it.
I haven't.
Great movie. So we went 3 times last week alone. All good movies. All movies I'd seen, funnily enough. But it was good to revisit them. So
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. You mentioned kind of recently that you're in the intake phase of being creative. Like you're consuming lots of things and using that to kind of fuel future creative projects.
I've found myself like moving into the output phase. Actually, I can probably move my camera. Hold on a second. If you see right there, on my wall is the big crazy wall of plot. I've taped up. You can see the roll of tape right there where I've taped it up.
The butcher paper.
Yeah, the butcher paper roll. That's a writer's best friend. But within that, I felt myself in the output, more or less. You know, I'm getting the plot together. Hopefully, I'm going to actually start the new feature script this month. But within that, I was like, I'm still taking in stuff. I'm still, funnily enough, a lot of period pieces. But I'm still, like, consuming good art, so therefore I may put out good art, hopefully.
Right. Ideally, you would be doing a good mix of both, I would feel like.
You know, I often try to mix it, but what'll often happen is I'll be sitting, I'm at my computer, work is done, and I'm still sitting at my computer, and I'm like, well, I have 3 options right now. 1, watch a movie, as I always love to do. 2, play video games and contribute nothing to society. Or 3, I can just go ahead and write something. I have a dozen different projects I'm spinning like plates, so that's not hard to find something to write. But often I'll either be in the I have to write, and I'll be there till midnight. I'll be there till 2 a.m. and then get 4 hours of sleep and wake up and go to work.
That's all you need, right?
You know, you'd think in college I was pretty good at that, but somewhere around 23 years old, it like ticked over. And
I was just gonna say, like, I used to be able to pull all-nighters. I could drink, wouldn't ever feel hungover, and now it's like 25, man.
Rarely do I feel hungover, but off. Like I had a Pepsi the other night at like 6:30. Right. That's not too late to have just a single Pepsi.
Sure.
And I was up till 2 a.m. because
Is it
I'm
caffeinated?
Pepsi's caffeinated. Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I can't have caffeine.
That's kind of fair though. They say don't drink coffee after like 3 in the afternoon, and that's
Yeah.
like a few hours later than that.
I've always been sensitive to caffeine, but I'm like, oh man. And then of course I woke up the next morning and I was caffeine hungover. I was just like grumpy and sleep deprived. Anyway,
Well,
uptake, output.
Speaking of being swamped with work, I started my new job yesterday.
How is that?
It's been pretty good so far. I've got my ThinkPad right here.
Ah, the mighty ThinkPad.
Yeah, 32 gigs of RAM in this bad boy.
Really? I
Yeah.
have no idea what mine's
It's
running
not
on.
it's not a great laptop.
No.
I'll just be honest. But
I have one right. It's hooked into my setup, but it's just off screen. I've got a ThinkPad as well.
yeah, it's really hard to have like a dual PC setup, like PC and Mac, and then use like the same peripherals. That's been a nightmare. And Windows is janky, and I hate Windows.
USB switcher
I
saved
know.
my life.
Yeah, I need one of those.
I've got a button. I'll snap the button and it'll move my keyboard and my mouse over to the ThinkPad. Because the important thing about a ThinkPad is that you never touch it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a screen. I don't even like to use the screen on the ThinkPad. It's
Mine's
over.
like terrible resolution.
Yeah, it's terrible. And I'm squinting at it, and they never give you a big one. And I'm a writer, so I have to look at like proofread for little words.
Yeah, it's the worst. On a bright white background, so your just eyes are being
Yeah,
destroyed.
it's killer in the mornings because in the mornings, if I take my meetings in my study, it wakes my wife up, and when I'm waking up at 6 a.m. for morning meetings, she's not. So I go and take it out on the couch, and I'm just I can feel my eyesight declining as I just sit there staring
It's
at the
bad.
screen.
That's why I ended up getting some blue light glasses. That helped a lot. But and then I stopped wearing them, and I don't know. Haven't had any problems.
Just wait, it'll catch
been
up with
alright.
you. Both my
Yeah,
parents wear
okay.
glasses. I know it's in the future.
You're probably right. Good lighting helps actually.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I'll turn on lights in the living room, but I still have, I'm sitting on the couch just like it's like 2 feet from my face. Not
well,
great.
I'm happy to hear that you're balancing the intake phase and the outtake phase. Do we call them phases? The intake period,
Whatever.
outtake period,
Intake and
whatever you want to
outtake.
call it.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that you're balancing both of those.
And I'm happy to hear you got a ThinkPad.
But yeah, so let's see. I guess just jumping into our first question
Yeah.
for today. What's a bad movie that you actually learned something from?
Okay, so there's a lot of bad movies I watch. I love a bad movie actually. For example, the Willy's Wonderland that I made you watch
I
while
love that
ago.
movie.
Yeah, right? It's not a good movie.
I've seen it like 4 times.
I love it, but it's not a good movie.
I disagree.
You disagree, really? Okay,
I think
we'll
it's a
get
good
into that
movie.
in a second. But not talking about Willy's Wonderland here. That's just an example of a bad movie I love. The Zack Snyder, like the second half of his filmography is kind of all rubbish. And yet, like basically every movie in there, I have a fond connection to, other than Rebel Moon, because Rebel Moon is a bridge too far. Regardless, his like 2021 release, Army of the Dead, which is like a zombies in Vegas movie. Just a spectacular little montage in the beginning of it that I'm like, I wish the whole movie was that, because this is actually fun and good. Zack Snyder loves to do a montage, and he does them really well, and just like the little bits of storytelling.
I mean, arguably every filmmaker is participating in montage. A movie's just a montage.
Yes, but like within the montage of a movie,
I know what you mean.
Thank you for derailing my point there. But Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead has like at the very beginning this like how the zombie apocalypse happened basically section, and within that it has all these like little bits of storytelling that it set up these really interesting characters and situations and just gags, and I'm like, this is great. I'm eating this up, and then the rest of the film completely fails to deliver. But that little I love Zack Snyder so much because those like little shots and just bursts of inspiration, I'm like, that's what I come here for. I would like a movie since Batman not even Batman versus Superman, since Man of Steel. I would like one of his movies since Man of Steel to be good. Like, I'm a fan. Come on, Zach, please. You too, Zach.
Yeah, of course.
You can facilitate this for me.
I'll make the new Man of Steel.
There we go.
Wait, isn't there a new one?
No, it's coming out this year.
Out. Okay. I thought I saw the commercial.
I have fallen off the wagon on superheroes. I used to be so into superheroes, and now like Guardians 3 was apparently really good, and I was like,
I liked that one actually.
Usually I watch movies with my wife when we go like out to the cinema, and she was like, it has like animal torture in it. I can't deal with that. And I was like, well, I could go watch this with somebody else because I have plenty of friends who'd go watch a Marvel movie with me, but I just don't care enough.
Yeah, that's fair. I've been burned on my fair share of Marvel movies, but I would say Guardians 3 was an exception.
Yeah,
personally.
I'm sure it was properly good. I'm trying to
Mhm.
remember the last, like some of the newer Spider-Man ones were actually quite fun.
Yeah, I saw one of those, the one with Willem Dafoe.
Yeah,
I
that
thought
was
that
pretty
one was
good.
decent.
Even like the first Spider-Man Homecoming, the one where he's like in high school. I mean, he's in high school for all of them, but like where he's like a little high school kid.
Mm-hmm. It was
that
like kind of
fun.
the reboot one.
Yeah, the reboot of
The first
Spider-Man.
of like the new series, yeah.
Like that was like such a fun movie, and I was, Endgame had just come out, not Endgame, whichever Marvel movie had just come out, the big one had just come out, and I was like, well, like we're kind of done. Like we get Infinity War and some stuff. Like, okay, cool. And then the movie came out, and I was like, oh, pleasantly surprised. There's actually like they can bring kind of a fresh take to the Marvel universe.
Yeah. We do apologize to any Marvel fans watching our podcast right now. We're just no shame about
no shame.
what you like.
I enjoy a good superhero film.
Right. Yeah, of course.
The Captain America 2, the best one in my opinion. So that's where it is. But I've also seen Black Widow since then, so I can't necessarily like call myself a fan anymore.
Well, to go back to the question, you mentioned Army of the Dead. What did you learn from that exactly? You just said you liked the montage.
I learned like out of that I learned like just the power of a good opening montage. Because the montage it is campy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody really likes a good opening montage anymore because it's corny, But like a proper set it to music, set up all your characters like this is a 1980s British mystery TV show, and like just run with it, like really lean into it, no shame. Like it, not only compelling storytelling, but a really good setup that basically encapsulates the entire setting of your film in the space of like a Bob Dylan song. If you look like Watchmen starts with a beautiful, basically runs you down the entire history of superheroes. We're on superheroes again for some reason this week. But he runs down the entire history of superheroes inside the Watchmen universe, sets up all the conflicts for the film, and just lets you loose. And you're like, I understand it all. You don't need anybody like giving like a long exposition. Like Scorsese does that great in Goodfellas, but like everybody who tries to imitate that immediately just flops on their face. He like those monologues and like all the exposition voiceovers just end up kind of feeling corny too. So why not just lean right into the montage?
I'm a big fan of show don't tell anyway. So just show me.
Yeah, it's the exact like show don't tell. He just gives you a snapshot, and in Army of the Dead, you go, man, these characters are really interesting. And then he lets you down. But like he still sets up the characters to be really cool and interesting. And I think that sort of setup of a montage is really valuable.
Right. So how do you plan on applying that to a future project?
Well, funny you should ask. So my next film, the one on the wall, is set through, I would say, it's a 2-decade period, but across 3 decades, if that makes like it kind of starts mid 60s, goes through all the 70s and ends mid 80s, more or less. It's about a pop star and a Porsche driver. I shan't give away too much, but through that, there's a lot of kind of time jumps because it's set across basically 20 years of these characters and how they interact with each other. And so I'm really leaning into the montage to set the scene for each, time skip, and also develop characters and introduce happenings that you'd have to burn an entire scene on otherwise. Well, you could just set up, shoot it, pay off, move on to the next one. And if you flash these at people fast enough, they'll think it's cool.
Well, I'm excited to see that. And hey, if this podcast grows big enough, maybe we can produce it, because it sounds like an expensive movie.
I mean,
you said 60s, 70s, 80s, and Porsche.
Yeah.
None
It's
of those
Porsche
are
Racing
cheap.
Driver. This is one of those films where, like a lot of films will be like, I wouldn't mind directing this, or if this got big, I would want to like keep this very close and direct it myself, or at least like vet my director very heavily. I would want like veto power, executive producer, et cetera, et cetera. You know how it goes. This is one of those movies where I'm like, once I write this, like I cannot be the one to direct it because I need people much more powerful and studios much bigger than what is within my purvey
to execute it properly. Yeah. Well, speaking of executing a big feature film project, we've talked quite a bit on this podcast about our most recent indie feature film, Hypnagogia, which is very exciting. The progress on post-production is going pretty well. But
we almost have a complete soundtrack. We're about a song shy, right? 2 songs?
1 or 2, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. So we've talked a lot about our most recent film project, but in today's episode, we want to go back to the beginning. We want to show you some of our earliest film projects. So I'm going to be showing you guys the first film that I ever directed, and then we're going to be showing you guys the first film Mateo ever directed. Spoiler alert, his is a lot better than mine.
Spoiler alert, we've come a long ways.
To be fair, I had about a 2-year gap because I was the cinematographer on Colleagues on a Trial Basis, which was the film that you directed. So I had a 2-year gap to like sharpen up my cinematography skills. Also, I wasn't the cinematographer of Somniac, now that I think of it. I'm the main character.
Yeah. You were
Forgot
the
about that.
director.
I was
Who
pulling
was cinematographer? Grayson?
Spencer.
No, Spencer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Grayson was in it, wasn't he?
He was the he's the, you guys will see. We won't spoil it.
Yeah, okay.
Mainly I want to point out like the differences between the directorial style of our older films versus just the overall style of the newer one, and hopefully have some fun story times and lessons learned along the ways. Yeah.
I will note, this is like Zack and Mateo as a filmmaking entity really began on a different film of yours where I came on as script super. I believe it was Brothers Bunker. But the film we'll see in a second is that I directed was really the beginning of like a solid like cradle to grave on a film creative partnership. And then we kind of fit more into me write the scripts, you actually shoot it and direct as more of our formula after that.
Which I feel like has gone pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're doing a podcast about it together.
That is true. That is true.
Well, Zack.
Yeah.
Before we jump in to the film,
which I'm very excited for.
What inspired you this week?
I've been inspired by the output phase. We need to like coin like an actual term for these things, because I feel like this is a good way to frame like creative input and output. But I've been in the output phase a lot lately. So I've been making a daily YouTube short. It's called Cinematic Short of the Day, or rather Cinematic Shot of the Day. And so every single day, including today, I did it today, did it yesterday, I did it Sunday and Saturday.
Plug the channel.
Zack the film. No, I don't care. I care about this a lot more than my main channel, but I've been putting out a cinematic shot every single day, and I've been really inspired by just the process of forcing yourself to be creative and then just kind of seeing what you come up with. Because almost every day I wake up and I'm like, I don't know what today's shot's going to be. And then I end up getting something, and about half the time I'm like really happy with what I got. And so a couple days ago, I got this really great overhead shot of me like sleeping in bed, and like the sun's coming up through the windows, and it looks really sick. A few days before that, I got this cool shot of me like sitting in the shower with like this red key light.
Very Gaspar Noé, that one.
Yeah, I haven't seen his films, but I think you've shared with me some inspiration photos.
Yeah, that's because he has blocks of text sometimes in his films, and I love that. And I have to be like, Zack, trust me, it'll be good.
I'm warming up to text on screen. I'm developing. I'm growing. But all that to say, I've been really inspired just by like what I can accomplish. Like it's more of a confidence kind of thing. I'm more confident than I was maybe 2 weeks ago in my abilities, just because I'm in the process of making something every single day. So yeah, that's been fun. I'll just keep doing that until I get bored of it and move on to something else, because I don't know if I'm going to do this for like a year or whatever. But I figure every day I'm getting like a 30-second shot. That could be a feature film by the end of the year.
You just have to put them together in a montage.
Montage. But what about you? What inspired you this week?
The Orson Welles. It's not directed by Orson Welles, but starring Orson Welles. The movie The Third Man. And Zach, you've heard me talk about this movie a bunch because I adored The Third Man. I believe when I was in student radio, the main theme from The Third Man was also the last song I played as a student on student radio. After that, it was all podcast stuff, including this podcast. But that was like my outro song was this, like the main theme from The Third Man. But I recently sat down with my wife and we watched The Third Man for the first time for her. And what really got me was the narration in it, actually, because you just heard me like spend a good 5 minutes dishing on like how corny narration is. But the narration in it really works, and I know it's a movie from post-war America, so it's a bit older, but it really holds up for me. Almost like the narration in like Frank Capra films. I really enjoyed it, and
See, I always appreciate voiceover, but I can never pull it off. Like every time I try to do it or we try to do it, it's
time for voiceover films, Zach.
No, here's the thing: we should take voiceover lessons.
Okay.
I mean, actually, like voice acting lessons. If we can do it well, maybe I don't know. I'll find a course for us. We'll go through it together because I feel like we just need to know what we're doing. Like that's it. And then I'll do a voiceover film with you.
I mean, we could also just hire somebody who knows how to do voiceover and then...
Well, that's true. That's actually easy enough to do.
Bypass that. Well, shall we get into it?
Yeah. You ready to watch our first bad film?
Yeah. So this is this first one is Somniac, the first one, because I was involved in a reboot, I guess, of Somniac.
Yeah.
Which was some time ago.
You want to tell that story?
So every now and then you'll be managing your channel or something, or we'll have a conversation. You're like, man, friggin' Somniac, so terrible. Go back, look at it, be mad about it. And I'm like, what if I just rewrote it to be good? And so I wrote like, I wouldn't say that now that it was necessarily a good reboot.
It was a spiritual successor with the same name.
Yeah, it was a spiritual successor. It was better. It had a semi-cohesive narrative.
It was better. Yeah, if I could just kind of jump in here. So, Spencer and I had made the first Somniac film, and the title, the name came from, it's not a real word, but we figured, hey, it's about a guy who like falls asleep. What's the opposite of an insomniac? And we were just like, Somniac, right? So that was the whole thing. We just completely made up that word. Somniac doesn't exist, but it is the best part of that movie because it's a pretty sick title.
Yeah,
but we made this film. We didn't have a script for it. We just kind of like logically pieced the shots together. So we were shooting. We were like, all right, what should happen next? And we would come up with it on the spot.
It's avant-garde.
It was a fun process, but the problem is like we kind of slowly became unaligned with whatever we were planning for the film to be in the first place. So because of that, the fact that we didn't have a script to keep us like grounded, we just kind of kept moving away from whatever we started with. So the film's not cohesive.
It's a living narrative.
It is neat. It is neat for that reason. But I will say, like you mentioned, we made a new version of Somniac. You tried to write it better, and you did. And we tried to make it better, and we did. In retrospect,
and then we grew, and now it no longer is as good as we could have done. So
right, but we refer to the movies with the name Somniac, we call those our benchmark films. So my first film was called Somniac. We rebooted it, which was a pretty good like representation of how much we had improved. And then we considered naming our feature film Somniac.
I mean, if you look at the plot of the feature film, it's definitely a not unreasonable move
it's
to name it
hugely...
Somniac. It's also about sleep in many ways.
Right. And so we toyed with the idea of also calling our feature film Hypnagogia Somniac 3, which I think is fun. So it's kind of our benchmark film. That's your little history lesson and also a little look into our process and why it was flawed, which, we'll develop later as we watch your film and then we talk about it in reference to the feature film. But with that groundwork out of the way, I think it's time to show Somniac. Ready to get this thing going?
Let's go.
I kind of forget that I'm in this movie, to be honest.
You're in that. Oh, the Civic. I miss the Civic.
I do too. I wish I still had it. So honestly, this scene is like the best part of the movie. Like, it's a pretty good sequence.
Is that on a drone?
Yeah. So
Okay.
it had like an opening drone shot, and then you kind of see the car peeking into the frame.
That's very 2014 is to have an opening drone shot.
It is, yeah. Well, it's 2014 in 2016 because that's when we made it. So it wasn't cool anymore, but I thought it was.
Love the lighting.
I'm glad we didn't do anything. It's just like whatever overhead lights were there.
It's very like digital era Lynch.
I can see that. This feels a lot like movies of its time. It's definitely a product of its time. Shooting on the Canon Rebel DSLR. It's got the shoulder rig kind of look. It's very bouncy. So I remember I worked at Brahms at the time. Brahms is an ice cream and burger joint, for those unaware. And I bought this on my way out. This is a microwavable dinner because I knew we were going to make this movie. And I guess I had at least some idea of what the progression was going to be because I at least knew I needed this. I actually kind of like the score.
Yeah, honestly, not as bad as I remembered the score.
It's just like royalty-free music, which, I mean, is most music that you're going to be using, but... I don't know if any of this makes sense, by the way.
I mean, I just heard a scary music sting and we saw the guy in the coat. I think the constant between this and the reboot, the Somniac 2, is the fact that we make you eat food in both films. Sit at a table.
I get like a migraine in both of them too, right?
I mean, you take pills. I forget
take
if you get a
pills,
migraine
yeah.
or not.
Popping Tylenols.
Woo.
Now, if you go back frame by frame, you might see my six-pack. Did not have to be there.
The kitchen knife. We mirrored that shot on accident in that implementation, the short that we.
Yeah. That's really funny with like the wrench.
Yeah, exactly.
I like the random cut-ins to things that don't matter at all, like the insert shot of me like spinning the tic-tac-toe thing. Completely
I mean,
unnecessary.
Terrence Malick does it.
Yeah. Also, I do my own stunts, guys. Mateo, take note and put me in a movie soon. I want to throw myself on the ground.
Whoa, it's really loud. I couldn't hear anything you just said.
What's that, the movie?
I couldn't hear anything you just said. Like, yeah, it got really loud for a
Can you
second.
hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I think the movie just got loud for a second.
Yeah. But you were saying?
Oh, I said put me in a movie where I can throw myself on the ground.
Okay, I got you.
There's that through the bar shot. Weren't we like just talking about that?
Yeah. Need money gets me every time.
Okay, honestly though, it's kind of smart because it does bring it back to the figure we saw at the beginning of the movie.
I think the seeing the actual sign itself wasn't so much the issue. There we go, throwing yourself on the ground again. As much as seeing it torn in half. That was very evocative.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why that was necessary either. Stupid knife, I thought I already threw you.
Is that a Bass Pro hat? I just noticed.
It's a hunting hat. I actually don't know the brand. It's got the hunter's orange and it's camo partially.
Can I make fun of how you run in that one? Since,
yes. I deserve it. It couldn't have been that weird.
I mean, I didn't think I was running very weird. When,
oh, really? I'll roll the clip. I'll do it. Okay, to be fair, my wrist does kind of get floppy for a second there. It is a little silly.
I do, the switch to POV is funny.
Fun fact, I think the POV shot was the last one we got.
The reveal! It's just like the creature.
That was the laziest way to do that. War is over, my friends. Yes! Life is gone!
Life is gone, life is good. Return to your home, citizens.
Okay, we should actually make... Oh, hold on. We'll just finish this real quick.
Gotta get that lens flare. 2016.
This is where it starts. What are you talking about, dude? I put lens flares in every movie.
I couldn't hear you again, it got loud.
What, the movie got loud?
Yeah.
Okay. You're gonna like this, Mateo, if you don't remember.
Hey,
you know? Whoa,
I forgot you
bro,
had a...
Bro, what if we did call Hypnagogia Somniac? What if we did? We
already announced the title.
No. I'm not suggesting we do it, right? But like, it's got a bunch of Dune references.
Yeah, it
Think
does.
about it.
It does. There's specifically the Dune on Laserdisc back here.
Mm-hmm. You have that painting above your bed as well.
Yeah.
Look out for that when the film comes out.
And I believe there's also like a paperback Dune copy somewhere in the film as well.
Yeah, you're right, on the bedside table. All right, so like, if you were reviewing this film, you stumbled across this movie on YouTube. It wasn't made by me; it was made by someone else. What would you think of it? What are your actual legitimate thoughts on it?
This feels like I saw high schoolers drop something in a film festival, and I would have been like, "Aw, like there's some nice little shots. That's pretty good."
I don't know which ones. It's just very shaky.
I mean,
not even in a cool way.
There were some good little inserts.
Yeah.
Like you made fun of like the random cuts to like just like, touching things, but I think those worked actually.
Yeah.
And the knife shot, I mean, we remade the knife shot completely on accident for
implementation.
Yeah, implementation. So it's not really too far out of what a decent film looks like.
Yeah, that's fair. Especially like student films of the time.
Yeah.
A lot of them looks like that.
Now certainly I would not think that I should sit through like 3 Best Actor nominations for it or anything. Like some film festivals. Yeah, so some film festivals we've been to have given. But I think it was decent.
Yeah.
For the resources and time.
Yeah. So I did mention that was my first like proper feature film. Well, I didn't say proper. I just said that was my first.
You also just said feature film, which it wasn't.
My bad. That was the first short film that I ever directed. But technically before that, I did a bunch of like skits and comedy shorts and stuff. I don't consider them short films as much. But this was like a milestone film because it was the first like serious film that I had ever done. And I think a lot of people liked it for that. Like a lot of people in my community like enjoyed it and was watching it all the time. Like I remember going over to the Grams, right? And anytime they had someone over, they like Didon would be like, "Hey, watch this film that like our friend made and my boys made." And she, proud mom, like showing the film to everyone. And people liked it, I guess.
Again, when like it's high schoolers making it, it's like, dang, you can like put together shots and it's fairly cohesive. It's more cohesive than I remember it being.
Yeah, to be fair, yeah, I agree.
Which that's why I'm like, if this was just like a bunch of high schoolers at a festival, it'd be like, yeah, pretty good.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's okay.
Good job, guys. You keep living the dream. You should make a feature someday.
Maybe this year.
Yeah,
last year, technically.
Fine.
But yeah, I mean that's all I have to say about that. Also, fun fact: the whole like dying and waking back up whole loop was based on Live Die Repeat.
Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
really good one.
I just saw that in theaters again recently.
Did you? Oh, you should have let me know because I would have seen that with you. That's a good one to rewatch.
Well, what happened was my wife and I had gotten free tickets. Because we go to see so many movies, sometimes they'll just kick a few tickets our way and be like, "Hey, you're our cash cows. Come buy more popcorn." But like about 30 minutes before we were supposed to leave, my wife was like, "Hey, I'm not feeling good. I don't want to go see Tom Cruise's face, etc., etc."
Why not?
I ended up taking Roz to see it because she was the one who was like,
as you should,
within 30 minutes. You live too far away now, otherwise I would have just like come and pick you up. But
yeah, the distance isn't really what gets me. It's more of like having a car.
Yeah, that too.
Just being like living kind of far away and sharing a car with my wife. Like before in the city, it wasn't as bad.
Yeah.
But hopefully I change that soon. Have more like flexibility.
Miata time.
Or Fiat Abarth.
Oh yeah, I know Abarth is.
It sounds pretty sick too.
It's front wheel drive, but I think that's a
okay.
sacrifice
The
I'd be
GTI
willing
is
to
too.
make.
I was looking at the GTIs. I'm still
But
pretty.
you're not looking at Golf R's with all wheel drive?
No, not as much. I mean, if I
Really?
can find a good deal on one,
Yeah.
sure. But
Well, regardless,
are you ready to get into your first?
I sure am.
Second film that you directed?
I mean,
or do you want to just call it first and forget that we?
it's the first film that I directed just on my own.
Mm-hmm. Because hey, we can write history here.
Yeah, we can write history. It's at least the first in the creative partnership between you and I.
That's fair.
So that's what I'll say.
Well, with that out of the way, here is Colleagues on a Trial Basis.
Tuesday morning,
I think that shot was
a
fun.
prominent insurance firm found a briefcase full of sensitive files stolen.
It's loud
They
again.
offered a reward, so I offered to find them. Problem was, I hit a dead end. Sam
better?
Taylor,
Yeah.
personal friend, professional socialite, and
I still have those little models, by the way.
and an absolutely charming fellow.
Sorry, Mr. Roy Sparks is here to see you.
Yes, send him right in. I really must be going now. My condolences.
Fun fact: both actors
Hello,
we're still
Roy.
working with.
Sam.
Not this one.
Very I'm fabulous. Won't you have a seat?
Monsieur?
Of course. Sam, I need some information. Getting right to it, I see. I suppose that is what you pay me for. Listen, a briefcase full of some sensitive material went missing, and I need to find it. You know, Roy, I never took you for one of those types. Sam, it's not like that. When have I ever steered you wrong? There was that time with the cement galoshes. Sorry about that. Good times. I just need to know the mover who's dumb enough to sell such a hot item so soon after it was stolen. I'll see what I can do. Thank you. Sam? You know, Roy, after all these years working together, I just never figured you would... Sam, it's not like that. It's just papers. It's not drugs. Oh, sure. Her name's Morgan Brown. She works at the Hartwood Theater when she's not moving material. Thank you. Happy to oblige. Oh, and one more thing. Oh? This job might be a little bit difficult, and I think I might need some backup. I know just the girl. She has a strong personality, but I'm confident that the two of you will get along just swimmingly.
Sam was right. Sylvia was unique, the perfect partner for this crime.
Pretty good scene transition.
Yeah.
Hello, Morgan.
What are you doing? You can't just jump up on somebody like that.
I'm afraid we can, though.
Who are you?
Hi, I'm Roy,
Uh-huh.
and this is my coworker,
Careful.
Sylvia.
We've been looking for you, Morgan. A little bird told us that you sold a briefcase that we're looking for.
We need a name. Who'd you sell it to?
I don't know anything about a briefcase.
I don't believe you.
Hey, don't hurt Daniel.
The silver briefcase?
Told you, I don't know anything.
May I interject?
No.
Daniel is a plastic dinosaur.
He is my best friend.
Well, you can say goodbye to Daniel.
Sylvia.
No!
Who'd you sell the briefcase to?
Told you, I don't know anything about a briefcase.
And I have a witness who says that you bought a pair of thieves, our pair of thieves, with our briefcase.
Seems like you're an awfully sloppy middleman to me.
What are you, cops?
Close. We're private investigators.
Then Daniel and I don't have to tell you anything.
Stop that.
What?
Pretending that your toy dinosaur.
Daniel!
Don't interrupt me.
He's not a toy, he's my friend!
No,
Ow!
he's not.
You're hurting me!
That's the point.
Sylvia,
What?
can we regroup for a second? Sylvia,
What? It's a plastic dinosaur.
I just think that we can handle this in a more refined manner.
I'm insulted, Roy.
Daniel and I like him more than you.
Quiet.
It's just that I think
You want me to wear kid gloves because I don't wear kid gloves.
That's not the point.
What is the point then?
I just think we can do it in a more psychological way.
I see.
I'm glad we can understand each other.
Can we go now?
You be quiet.
After all, communication is key.
Don't push it.
Man, the sound is rough.
Morgan,
Yep. Funny you mentioned
you're
that.
not stupid.
That's not what my mom
That is
says.
the
Well,
main
listen
lesson
to
I
what
learned
Adam
from this.
Same.
Got it.
It doesn't matter. What matters is, it is apparent that you were in possession of our stolen briefcase at one point in time.
Your point?
What's also apparent is that you're bad at lying.
Hey, I'm not bad at. Ugh.
There we have it.
Huh. I'm not talking.
Listen, all we need to know is who you sold it to.
Over my dead body.
Poor choice of words.
Shut up.
Not the most intelligent decision you've made today,
Sylvia?
Morgan. Maybe Daniel here will talk instead.
That's illegal.
You fenced stolen goods. I'm not sure you get to make that call.
Sylvia?
I need a name, Morgan.
That's a threat.
One I'm willing to make good on.
How about we don't?
I like that.
I don't.
Sylvia?
Roy?
Listen, how about we just make a bargain, no one gets burnt, and you tell us where the briefcase is?
Fine, I'll talk.
What else you got in there?
A brick.
Morgan gave us a name and a place. Sylvia gave Morgan a fright. It couldn't be helped. I needed this job.
Hey!
Such a fun shot.
Briefcase.
The man we would see.
Looks like we've got our man. Wait, hold up. This could potentially be dangerous.
I'm dangerous too.
Listen, just let me use my people skills to solve this one.
You're gonna sideline me?
I can't watch a job that's important.
I can tell when I'm not wanted, Roy.
Sylvia!
I'll be in the car.
Fine. Guess I'll just do this myself.
Impeccable timing.
There I am.
Sir! Excuse me, are you Mr. Simon Darling?
Can I help you?
I'd appreciate it if you could answer some questions.
Pardon
about
me.
I'm just here making inquiries about your business.
None of your business.
But Mr. Darling,
I'm
listen,
not
I-
answering any questions.
Uh-oh.
Listen, I think we got off on the wrong foot.
Think so?
Well, I mean, well,
Listen, my business is a repeat business. I make my customers happy. They come back. They give me money. And I like money. Now the thing is, when you spook them just like you did right now, and they run off, they take that money elsewhere. And when they take that money elsewhere, I get angry. And when I get angry,
Roy, grab the
that's
briefcase.
not
I forgot about the soundtrack to this.
Pretty silly.
I trust you two got along well? You know, we had some difficulties, but in the end, our skill sets meshed pretty well. Well then, shall we? Whoa, that's a lot of ketamine. Then Morgan never had the real case in the first place. Interesting. I gotta make a phone call.
I knew what had to be done.
Hello? Hey, Sylvia. Yeah, it's Roy. Would you be interested in extending our partnership? Oh, cool. Yeah, great. I have something you really need to see.
I love how that sets up a possible sequel.
I'm top billed this time.
There we go. So that was back when I actually cared about credit sequences and put a lot of effort into them, and now I don't. Now I have like a template that I use for all of our projects. That's the same font, same length of time. It's just like, boom, movie. Zack and Mateo.
Starring.
I kind of like that more, but I don't know. What do you think? How did you like your film?
And I'm sure you'll go more into this because you were. I mean, this was before I had taken any media production classes, to my knowledge. I believe this was the summer between my freshman and sophomore years. So I don't think I'd even had like my media production minor yet, like chosen at all. So taking that into consideration, I was just a writer then.
Yeah. Well, speak to the writing then.
Yeah, honestly, the writing wasn't that hard. This was the first project that I'd written that I directed that wasn't like a Lego stop motion. But I was pretty comfortable within the writing. I'd done dozens of like stage play scripts. So I was in the space. I kind of understood the flow of story scene to scene. And I had written for that film class that my first film came out of. But that was not one of my own scripts. And when I was directing it, I had a professor basically kind of moving everything along. So this was my first solo directed film. And while as a writer, I was like, yeah, I just basically make kind of a quirky script. I believe I wrote a feature and was like, Zack, how do you want to do like this colleagues feature? And you were like, I can't do a feature right now. And I was like, well, what if I consolidated it down? And you were like, okay, sure. So this is how that happened. But for that, I was director, I was producer, I was coordinating everything. And that's what I really wasn't prepared for on this. I remember giving myself like a lightheadedness from stress trying to coordinate what was a pretty like heavy cast for a film, considering like the other projects we've done that have been mainly like me and maybe two other people.
Right. There's a reason why we do things that way too.
Yeah, which
so
is
that was
mainly this
experience.
film.
That was one thing we learned and took into other projects. You mentioned while we were watching it, the audio is pretty bad.
Oh yeah.
And that happens to be my main takeaway of, hey, maybe make sure that the environment that you're filming in isn't like super noisy. Now,
Don't film
unfortunately,
next to a highway.
Well, yeah. Well, highway. Was it that pretty close to the campus?
No, that's just a general
right.
instruction.
Yeah, that definitely would help. Staying away from roads as much as possible.
Make sure the AC is off. Yeah.
So I don't think we had permission to be in that theater.
No,
if
we just did it.
We could have asked to turn the AC off. And so like asking for permission has that benefit too. It would have made the audio better.
It was a student film, so I could just do that. Like I went there. It's not like I wasn't allowed on campus. I just didn't have any official like stamp of approval.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, going through the proper channels, maybe, that would be one solution if you were set on that location. That was before, like, this was 2017, 18. This was before wireless mics were really popular and really easy to work with. So, mic placement means that you literally have to have a boom operator. And if you don't, you're just committing to having bad audio because you're just using an on-camera mic, which is what we did for a lot of these scenes. It's just the Rode video mic that was on the camera. That's the only audio we were getting. So that was tough. I guess the main takeaway, have good mic placement, have someone there to operate.
Have somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah. And even if it's just you, like I have a great, this is a different Zack's Gear Corner for the future, but I have a great little micro boom pole it's like super lightweight. It's carbon fiber. You can easily operate that while operating camera.
Yeah, especially if you're on sticks.
Well, that's a necessity, but
no, just kind of two-hand it. It's fine.
Yeah, I'll let you try that. I'll act this time.
Yeah, well, it'll be Zack's throwing himself off of balconies, and I'll be the one with the
the mic's like dipping into the shot.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly. It's fine.
As you jump after me with your insane handheld.
Just get a steady cam and then
Yeah.
It's fine.
Actually, you could get a steady cam and then like rig a boom pole to that.
Yeah.
It'd be a little front heavy, but you can make that work.
Surely it's been done before.
Yeah. So, I mean, to the people that, maybe they're hearing this for the first time, when you're doing audio for a film, mic placement is key because there's this little thing called a signal to noise ratio. So the further back you are away from the signal, which in this case, the signal is the voices that we're trying to pick up, the closer in volume the voices become to the ambient sound. The closer you get, you're isolating that a little bit more. So you're getting louder volume on the dialogue and less volume on the ambient noises that you're trying to minimize. So getting your microphone pretty close, within 6 inches to a foot, is usually a pretty good idea. That wasn't something we did for this, but if you can keep that in mind when you're shooting and trying to do audio, however you get the mic close, whether it's you're using a wire mic or you're using a boom pole, that's the standard, just do that. That's all you got to do.
Additionally, like I know they've tested this. They'll take an audience, show them a film with like pretty low resolution but crystal audio, and then show them a film with pretty bad audio but it looks nice, and they'll ask after the fact, like which like version do you think looked better? And they'll often pick the one with better audio because the audio is, I think, first and foremost. Like, if you are going to really go hard on any production value, you need good audio.
Right.
Nothing else matters. Otherwise, like, for example, for the scene in the theater where Morgan was robbing a theater, allegedly, or whatever was going on there. For that scene, it's actually pretty well shot.
Yeah.
Like,
what's
the
tragic about
lines look good. And I mean, towards the middle, it gets a little bit whatever. But part of that is that the amateurishness is highlighted by the fact that it sounds like it was recorded on a potato.
Right.
While like some of the kind of walkway shots during the drug deal looked worse because, at that point we're very early on in our filmmaking partnership, but sounded much better just because we had more control and could get in closer, and therefore that feels better than the theater scene.
Yeah, completely agree. People will forgive bad visuals, they won't forgive bad audio, and that I'm glad you brought that up because I totally forgot about that.
It's like my one thing is like I don't care what it looks like, I just care what it sounds like. And that might just be because I really like honed in on audio in college, and I run podcasts, etc. But it's true. It's never failed me. Really, my takeaway from this, though, getting all of this together, like, made me realize, like, filmmaking is, from a collaborative standpoint, is so hard. Like, I was like, I slaved over the script, making it as good as I could. Obviously, we've advanced since then, but I really tried on this script, and I made it kind of quirky. And was it hard to get good talent when you're shooting during the summer and people are going on family vacations, and also like most of a good section of the cast and crew is still in high school. That was difficult. And some of the performances leave a lot to be desired of.
Yeah, I like a lot of it, frankly.
Yeah, at the same time, it has a charm to it, even on the bad stuff, and the good stuff is still good. But the logistics of getting everything together almost killed me that summer. And I think that's the one time I've had a shoot that has been a complete bust.
Yeah, our first day of that, without getting too down a rabbit hole, our first day of Colleagues was just a complete we
got no footage.
Nothing.
It was complete. It was like we had everybody show up, and it was a complete waste of time for everybody. We went to a Starbucks, and I had a breakdown. And then I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then we came back and did it, which that was another lesson I learned from it, is even when things are tough, you just have to show up and keep doing it and just nose to the grindstone until it gets done.
Right. And we did get it done.
But it has also alerted me to the fact that I really need a producer of some sort. And if I have a producer to just focus on things, I can then focus on directing the film. There were a lot of parts of the film that I'm like, man, I know I could have directed that actor better even then, but I was just too focused on everything else around making a short film. I was like, man, I really wish I had a producer. If you can get a producer, I have not yet. Zack's been my producer in certain cases, while also being DP, which was not fun for Zack. But if you can get a dedicated, There's
a
a
way to do it.
if you can get a dedicated person to like do that for you, to do like handle like making sure people show up on time, that way you can focus on how you're going to direct that scene. Much more helpful than having to do it yourself. Or if you have to do it yourself, budget like triple the time that you normally would, and you're already budgeting triple the time because it's the rule, the 3 times rule, as Zack says. So if you're going to do that, make sure to know that if you're directing and producing and writing and maybe being DP, that you need to either make your scope much smaller or give yourself the time to put this together in a manageable fashion.
Yeah, for sure. Because I would just say too, like, even if you don't have the luxury of having a dedicated producer on set, I would say at least bring someone along to be a shoulder to cry on.
Yeah, that was Zack for me. I was like,
My wife has been that. So without getting too far on a rabbit hole, she's been with me on a handful of shoots, and her being there makes it a lot easier, and it's pretty nice.
We just need to give her executive producer credits on everything we do now.
I want to make something with her. We got to bring her onto something because I think she's got skills, and
I mean we've had she's the monster in implementation.
Yeah, she is, and she's also the monster. Well, yeah, I don't know if I should say.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. Okay. Are we ready?
I think we're ready.
All right, guys.
Here's
time. The thing. I kind of cheaped out on you last week. I didn't have much of a Zack's Gear Corner for you, but this week I want to make up for
Ladies
you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Zack's Gear Corner.
Zack's Gear Corner.
All right, now listen up, folks. I'm an indie filmmaker. You're an indie filmmaker. And that means I have 2 things. Number 1, I've got an unhealthy relationship with coffee and a deep spiritual connection with Haze in a can. This little beauty is the difference between cinema and your Uncle Gary's vacation footage. You ever watch a movie and think, wow, that shot looks so expensive, so dreamy, so professional? Well, that's not just a $50,000 camera at work, that's Haze. And this is Hollywood magic in a $12 aerosol can. And listen, Haze isn't just for movies. You can use this in real life too. You ever walk into a room and think, man, this just needs a little atmosphere? Well, boom, psh, instant A24 vibes. Your sad studio apartment with a broken IKEA lamp? Now it's an Oscar-winning man. Now... Haze makes everything look better. You got a bad haircut? Haze. Filming a scene in your actor's performance is just kind of meh? Haze. No one's going to notice their line delivery now. Ain't that right? You ever try shooting a scene without Haze and you set up a shot, you get the perfect angle, the lighting is perfect, but then you look at the monitor and you're like, why does this look like a corporate training video? Well, that's because the air is too clear. Too much oxygen in that shot. Not enough art.
Haze.
In a can. Now, some of you are thinking, but won't people know it's fake? No. Look, do you know how much haze exists in the real world? None. Zero haze. You ever walk around outside and see sunbeams just cutting through the air like God is directing a Nike commercial? No. But in movies, every morning in a Hollywood film looks like the heavens are opening up just for you. I know. It's pretty magical, right?
Yeah, magical.
But the best part, the real magic, it makes everything look expensive. You could be filming with a potato, but you add a little haze, and suddenly, boom, your film goes from student project to Sundance selection. And that, my friends, priceless. So if you're an indie filmmaker or just someone who wants to make your life look more interesting, do yourself a favor, get some haze in a can. It's cheaper than therapy, and it makes your world look way more cinematic. That's it. That's all you get. How was that?
Pretty
you
good.
Think that'll be good?
Yeah.
Are you sold on atmospheric aerosol? Haze in a can?
Yeah, also this happens, I breathed in enough of it during the production of the feature
Yeah, that's true. I set my fire alarm off multiple times today. It was really bad. So my cinematic shot of the day, I hazed up this hallway out here. And the shot was like, it was okay. It wasn't like the best shot ever, but lots of haze, laid it on thick, forgot that I had fire alarms. And partially because I've been using that haze in a can for so many like projects in my house lately, have never had a problem. So I didn't think about it. I laid it on thick and
Applewood.
Yeah, Applewood. Well, this doesn't, it doesn't have that like Halloween store smell, but yeah, set it off. We have like the active monitoring. So I immediately got a phone call. My phone was what I was shooting on. So it like interrupted the recording because I was going to push through the alarm for a second just to like finish the last 5 seconds of the shot. Got a call. Guy's like, "Hey, is everything okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I used some, I'm a photographer. I used some haze in a can. You know how it is." And he didn't know.
He did not know how it was.
He did not. He's like, yeah. So sometimes if I'm doing like woodwork, I'll just like put a Walmart bag around my smoke detector. And I'm like, that's a good
smart.
idea.
That is smart.
But what sucked is the alarm wouldn't really stop. So I'd put in the code to turn it off temporarily and it would go off. Or it would stay off for a little bit and then it would trigger again like 30 seconds later. So I had to open my garage. I had to open all the doors. My poor dog didn't like it that much, but honestly, he can get wrecked because he doesn't pay rent. So, yeah, that's the only thing you got to be mindful of. I feel like I got to throw in this little PSA is, first of all, it is flammable. So, like,
It's aerosol.
Yeah, don't use it around candles or... Like even I just plugged in this light and saw sparks. Not really, but when you plug in, you see it a little bit.
That's pretty normal for an outlet.
Yeah. So there's haze in here, so I'm glad that I'm still alive to finish this podcast out.
No, I think if you're in a large enough room, a smoke machine is the better idea. Just you just use a fog machine. But for like there were some areas that were really small and the fog machine takes forever to warm up. I think we used it in some of the wood scenes. Just
we
for,
did
some up closes.
Oh yeah,
because you could hit it.
We used it for all of it.
Oh no, like I'm talking about the haze in a can.
Oh no, we didn't use it for that.
Okay, we didn't use it. Okay, but we've used it for parts where we really just need an up close. We don't want to have to plug in, for the close up. We don't want to have to plug in the machine, have it warm up, hit it with just 2 blasts of the stuff, and then have to like disperse it all when you can just hit like 1 spray from a haze in a can.
Yeah, it's really convenient. It's easy to pack. Highly recommend it. But with that out of the way, what are some closing thoughts you have about like directing styles? Your directing style when you started out versus your directing style now. Or just broadly lessons learned from the past that we applied to our most recent project. Just talk to me.
Honestly, I mean, my first takeaway from this entire episode is that stuff isn't as bad as I remember it.
Yeah. I mean, yours wasn't. Mine kind of was. I don't know.
I saw yours and I was like, this was not so horrendous that I'm like, we need to like make a reboot, you know? Like I was like, it's fine. It's decent.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, again, contextualizing it for when it came out, how old you were when you were making it, the resources you had to make
16.
it, Obviously, if you made that now, even if you didn't have the experience, I'd be like, come on, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like you've seen better movies. You know how to make a general film. Just do it. Why like get a script together or even a storyboard, George Miller it if you must.
Yeah, my kind of life motto is a little effort goes a long ways. And it's totally true because with most things there are diminishing returns with how much effort you put into it, and doing like just a little bit of work gets you like most of the way there. So you think of like it takes no time at all to learn the basics, learn the fundamentals of any hobby or activity. You can learn the basics very, very quickly. Well, think about like how applicable those basics are in the future, like always. So like for filmmaking, there are like filmmaking basics. There are just really intro things that you learn that you're still going to be using as a professional and further down in your career.
Three-point lighting.
Yeah, things like that. Far side key, just having a backlight is important. I say that as I don't have one, but it's really important. It makes every shot look better. Using a puff of smoke, 180-degree rule, 180-degree shutter, like those things, I could sit you down and teach you all of it in about 30 minutes, and you'd be making better films than we did when we started out. So that's literally my life motto. If I'm like, man, I really want to do a good job at this, but like I don't know if I can put in the effort or the time to like research or figure out what I need to do, I remember, oh, little effort goes a long way. Let me spend 5 minutes trying to learn about this, and usually that's worked well for me. So a little bit of a tangent there. My bad.
No, I think that's helpful, especially like when we're talking about production value. For yours, I mean, like I could go on and on about how like, yeah, they're pretty good. We have to be nice to our past selves, just like we'd be nice to like our younger cousin who is just getting into filmmaking and is like showing us something that they, I made this. You don't want to just like freaking amateur. Have you seen David Lynch's movies? Like it's not the point. And like I'm very proud of, especially like with all our like earlier short films, for us just getting out there and making art, despite the fact that like, we didn't really have the money for it, and nor did we necessarily have the talent for it, but we had the passion, and then from that built that talent.
That's really what matters.
But like I can go on and on about this or that, but really at the end of it, it's I can see the stylistic tracings that I still carry into my films today. I can see the ethos. I can see my directing style. I can see your cinematic style. I can see your directing style. Even in a film where you had no script,
Yeah.
Like it's one of those things where, oh yeah, there's like objectively these are not very good movies. Be it due to just no good sound whatsoever. Which, it happens. I had it happen on a podcast I recorded recently. My sound was just acting up and I sounded like I was broadcasting from the moon. And I couldn't do anything about that. And I understand that like that still happens. But like regardless, like despite all of that, I can see little tidbits that I've taken and I've explored, and that have influenced me, or that even no longer influence me, but built me to where I am, or built me to where I could get to where I am now. And I think that's like valuable, even if it's not necessarily nice to look at all the time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like with reference to the stylistic similarities between your past work and your most recent work, it's definitely more of like a for fun thing, seeing like, oh, I still do that today. Even though I wasn't thinking about it at the time, like something about this project informed the way I currently work on things. That can be really fun to see. Personally, my philosophy is don't focus on being an auteur too much, because if you define yourself in a certain like way of my work looks like this, I think you're kind of robbing yourself away from that like creative spontaneity. And usually people aren't called auteurs until later in life, where you go back to their filmography and you see the thread that kind of connects them all. So like Kubrick, for example, like you see his style, but like you don't, I can't imagine that he was thinking about his style while working on like The Shining, or working on like Barry Lyndon or whatever. Like every film, especially for him, feels so distinct from every other one. I mean, every movie's like a different genre.
He's setting out to make good art, and it just happens to be good art that he has made.
Yeah. So that's the approach that I try to take. Just focus on like what's right in front of you.
I might be slightly more in the auteur camp, just because I'm dramatic.
Yeah, but you're more of like a cinephile than me, so I could see why you would be value that.
Honestly, I think that reflects in our work, even like down to these films. Like I can see you're trying to push towards the future, and I'm like trying to like develop what my creative vision is.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you're doing that without like, you don't need to try to do that. You're just gonna do that.
I do it because I that's just how I am. Unfortunately.
Yeah. It's just a different like the difference is in mindset, but I mean, really, the result is the same as far as I can tell.
It also helps that we work on these films together, so you can temper my need to have things exactly how they need to be.
Yeah.
And I can push you forward to maybe make things exactly how they need to be, and we find a happy medium in there.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing, with some of your early films, not even just like Colleagues, but like Landlocked Whaler, for example, is you were trying to emulate like a Wes Anderson style and trying to like.
I was trying to be a bit quirky. I'll be honest.
Yeah. I'm not sure I don't know what I'm like aiming for as a filmmaker.
I think you're aiming for a Zack Koch film.
Yeah, maybe.
I think honestly, like especially with Colleagues, where I was really trying to do kind of like a smart, fast talking, Wes Anderson quirky script where nobody acts like a human being, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that came across through my actor's delivery. For some of them, it did, I'm sure. But
sometimes, yeah.
Like I don't know, like I still adore Wes Anderson. There's that old posts, all the posts I used to make where I'm like, he's literally me for real, except it's not about Ryan Gosling. It's about Wes Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
For all of that, like, I don't think in my writing style, I try to do that anymore.
That's good.
I think I grew out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was very helpful for me to like not have to figure out what a Mateo film looked like, where I could just like, this is something I really like in Wes Anderson's work and I can continue to pursue that.
Mm-hmm.
And then like once I like, oh yeah, I did Landlocked Whaler and it had a lot of like Wes Anderson feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
Pastels, Futura font, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like once I got that out of my system, it let me sort of reset and figure out what I liked visually as well.
Right. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, and at the end of the day, like we're all being informed by something, that we saw, something that we were inspired by, whether it was like a piece of music or a feeling or a movie.
2001: Space Odyssey for you,
or
Zack,
a Kubrick film. Yeah, yeah. But that inspiration's there regardless. Regardless of whether you recognize it as like I'm trying to emulate Wes Anderson in this way. I think for me, I don't even realize what I'm emulating until later on. And then I go, oh yeah, like that shot in the bathroom I did the other day. Like I've seen that shot before. I don't know where. I've seen
Noé's Love.
It was probably that, like
because I sent you the screenshots. Look at the text, Zack. It works.
Yeah. So that inspiration's always coming from somewhere.
That's why it's important to have that intake phase.
Mm-hmm.
To go through that period, that season of your life where you're just taking in as much good stuff as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you do only watch James Bond films, your movies will kind of be like lesser James Bond films, because that's the only thing you've got. So if you're pulling in more, all the better. But I think now like we need the future. And I felt this for a while, but I feel like we really need to like push ourselves this decade as a culture and as filmmakers.
As filmmakers, especially. Yeah. Well, I guess this is a good opportunity to bring up the fact that, we'd love to see your films as well.
Yeah.
There's a link in the description. Put your name in there. Send the link to your movie and we might feature on the channel. We did that last week with Jack's film, Powering Down.
Which was a delight.
Yeah, which was really fun to watch. And so we'd love to kind of review your guys' movies, talk about directing styles. Let us celebrate where you're at with your filmmaking journey by letting us watch your film on the podcast. We'd love to check it out.
Well, any last thoughts before we part?
Yeah, just a brief thought to kind of tie everything together. I would say use every opportunity to get 1% better. There's always something that you can improve. And I think the best way to improve is just to be conscious of what's worthy of improvement. Every time you finish a shot, every time you finish a movie, take a moment to reflect like, oh, what could have been better about that? And if you're consciously aware of that, I think you're going to get, 1-2% better every single day. And that adds up over time.
Yeah, no, I think, again, that's just like we've been saying, like keep making micro shorts. To that, like you can't get that 1% better if you're not making art. If you're a writer, I do that. I actually honestly don't write enough, but if you are a writer, just keep writing, keep putting stuff out. Within the churn, you will get that 1% better with each one. While if you're just like, I have to make it perfect, you're going to get trapped in a single project. And that's happened to me. I've spent 3 years writing a feature film and
don't be
honestly,
like this guy.
Yeah. Don't be like me. Don't do that. But like in looking back at these little films, don't think, man, I was so bad back then. Think like making these little films got me a little bit better each time. So even if with your next next whatever feature, short, documentary, however whatever you want to make. Just YouTube videos even can make you better at filmmaking.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you do that, like, remember, like, you're getting better, you're learning each time, versus the you who is not doing that because you got paralyzed by whatever. Paralyzed by, like, what if it's bad? Like, so what if it's bad? You put it out at least.
Mm-hmm.
And you got 1% better. So that's my final. I'm not at all coping with how bad my film was.
Yours was the better of the two. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, mine also came out later, so.
Well, hopefully, after watching our movies, you guys have learned what not to do on your next film.
I've been your host, Mateo Guthrie.
And I've been your host, Zachary Koch.
Go make a movie.
Go make a movie. You got this. I want it on my desk by next week.
Bam.
Nice.